Right now, there is definitely a wave of second generation Mexican Americans, hijos de inmigrantes, hijos de mexicanos, who are trying to find. Hola, hola. Welcome to another episode of the Viva la Mami podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Cuevas. And on today's Living in Mexico series, we are going to share a lot about dual citizenship. And as part of the episode, I have my husband with me here, Alex, once again. Now, this isn't the last Living in Mexico series episode, but because this has been 5 weeks of these episodes, I'm going to go back to my regular mommy content. I have a lineup of really great, amazing individuals that I have interviewed for the podcast. And so we're definitely going to go to our regular content about Latina motherhood. And so you'll be listening to topics around Latina motherhood, and I'll be inviting expert guests as well to just kind of talk about all things motherhood. So this episode, Alex, I think it is very important just because we have gotten a lot of questions. Now, if you haven't noticed, the previous episodes have been topics based around your questions. And so this question has been the top one, I think, the number one top question, and that is, how do you get dual citizenship? So if you haven't seen or noticed on Instagram, on social media, I did share that my family and I all have gotten our dual citizenship, specifically in Mexico. And so right now, there is definitely a wave of second generation Mexican Americans, hijos de inmigrantes, hijos de mexicanos, who are trying to find different pathways to reclaim their culture and their roots. And one of them is by getting dual citizenship. I've definitely heard a lot of people saying, well, I'm getting dual citizenship just in case. And it's kind of like a backup for various reasons, but we all know why, because of the current political climate that is going on right now. And it's not even political. I think it's just social inequalities that are going on with our immigrant community. And so a lot of folks are reclaiming this other pathway to be protected, but also just in case if something were to happen either to their family or to themselves or whatever reason. So for us, obviously our situation is different. We are not personally affected by why we decided to get dual citizenship. I think initially it was because we just wanted to. I think for me, I just wanted to have another passport because I think passports are so cool.
Okay.
But yeah, I think for me, at least, it's another way to be closer to the motherland and for me to pass that on to my kids. I don't know why you decided to get dual citizenship.
I don't know. For me, I didn't really have a specific reason as to why I wanted to get, or as to why I got my dual citizenship. I guess it was for me to not feel left out. My wife, my 2 kids had their citizenship, so at the end of the day, I was just like, screw it, I'll just do it too. And it's easier. You don't have to be worried about getting fined or any other stuff that could happen if you don't have the right documentation, I guess.
Yeah.
But I didn't have no specific reason as to why I got mine.
You just joined the bandwagon.
Yeah, I joined the bandwagon. Yeah, bandwagon jumper now, I guess.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting because I got mine first along with the kids, and then you did yours kind of on your own. And so we can definitely talk about our 2 different experiences because they were very different in terms of getting our dual citizenship, and specifically here in Mexico. And as part of this topic, I have received a lot of questions about what are the necessary documents? What are the requirements? Do my parents have to be in person? Do I have to go and make an appointment at a consulate office? Can I do it in Mexico? And so all of these questions that I have gotten, and I mean, there were about hundreds of questions that I have received over the course of since spring of 2025 until now that we are at the end of 2025. And all of these questions are answered directly on my new How to Get Dual Citizenship in Mexico e-guide and digital course. And so if in case you are interested or wondering what it's like to get dual citizenship, like you need someone to guide you along the way, I'm here to help you porque it is an overwhelming process. And some of us don't really realize like what are the specific requirements. You know, we're often told by like word of mouth, somos buenos para el chisme. But then again, when it comes to a very centralized like pathway, I've shared this through our own personal experience, what it looks like, but also just sharing with you what those requirements are in a step-by-step process. So within the e-guide, it's basically a visual that you can kind of work along your way. If you are an independent person and kind of want to do this on your own, the e-guide is kind of like a resource as like to check the boxes to make sure that you've got everything covered. But if you want a more personable, like almost like a one-on-one experience where I literally walk you through this pathway in getting dual citizenship, this is when you can get the digital course. It consists of 5 different modules, and all of them talk specifically about getting dual citizenship in Mexico. A lot of times we just know that getting dual citizenship can be done at the consulate in the United States, but this is another pathway in a very quick way, an economical way to getting your dual citizenship. So this is all based on our experience, and that's what I share in my digital course. Along with the digital course, you'll also receive the e-guide. So it's basically 2-in-1 sort of thing. So if you are interested in knowing how to get dual citizenship in Mexico, just click on the link shown in the description of this podcast or the description of this YouTube video. And, you know, you can definitely purchase my guide and or digital course. And that way you can claim your heritage and your cultura by getting dual citizenship.
And I can personally vouch for it, not because she's my wife or anything, but she did help me get my stuff done
Yes.
too. So
yes, so I am living proof that
Yeah.
I've definitely helped a lot of people. I have a couple cousins that are now getting their dual citizenship. And so I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just convert this into a way for me to not just get paid for the services that I'm offering, but also it's a genuine, heartfelt project that I put into because I think it is time for us to claim something that we've been inherited, but we often don't talk about this type of inheritance. We often think about money. We often think about assets, but getting citizenship from a different country, that in itself is wealth. And that's why I'm sharing it out to the world. So check out the link in the description. And yeah, hopefully you can join me. All right. So one of the things that we want to share in this podcast episode, we're not going to talk about these are the things that you need to do because literally this podcast episode can be a full-blown podcast in itself or a series. And this is just another way for you to get my digital course or e-guide. Haha. But I think this episode will mostly touch base on our experience. Like, how did we feel about the process? How did we feel after we did this process in getting dual citizenship? So I don't know if you want to start or me. I don't know if you want to hear the good news or the good thing or the bad.
Well, let's go with the bad side first. So like that, you can be enlightened by the easier side, I guess. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was difficult, almost, right? It wasn't impossible, but I guess the reason for me why it was a more lengthy process than it was for Just is because I had to go through a little bit more strenuous process, I guess. Almost not strenuous, but
I think it's like an additional step.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I still got it done, right? I mean, it wasn't. I think if I were to put like a time frame, it took me how long? Like a week?
Maybe. Well, from the initial part, I think it took you 2 months.
2 months.
So, do you want to talk about your birth certificate? Because that was like the very initial step of the process.
My birth certificate, they messed up my birth certificate.
Like your U.S. birth certificate.
Yeah, my U.S. birth certificate in Chicago. They misspelled my mom's last name. So I had to get that done twice, I think. Wasn't it? I think it was twice.
Was it twice?
I think it was twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to get it done twice. And then, yeah, when we noticed it, we were just like, damn it, right? And then so we were already here. So then I had to have my cousin help me out to go, once it was fixed, go get it apostilled and then mailed over, well, not even mailed, but it was delivered to us by her grandma.
Yeah.
And then after that, what happened?
Yeah, then you got started with the Registro Civil and everything. But that is definitely one thing and one big tip of advice that I share in my course and the e-guide is that all of the documents have to match. Like your name has to match in every single document. Otherwise, you're not going to get dual citizenship. So at first we thought, oh, Alex, you're next in line. Like you can get dual citizenship. And then when I was literally reading your birth certificate, okay, who gets to read birth certificates? You just get a copy. Like I remember it's almost like a rite of passage. Once you go to college or get married or whatever, your parents just hand you all these important documents and you don't even pay attention to them until this time around. I looked at your birth certificate. I was like, oh, Alex, your mom's last name is missing a letter. So we were like, oh, crap. So we thought that we would get this done at a vital records office. So in this case, at the Cook County Clerk's office in Chicago. But unfortunately, you couldn't even send it there in person to get it corrected. Like you had to mail it in, and it was essentially sent to the state capitol in Springfield.
Yeah. Which took 12 weeks.
Yeah,
it took 12 weeks.
Yeah, it took longer. Well, it actually took longer than 2 months now that we think about it. It's like 3-4 months. Yeah. For you to get your dual citizenship. So for him, it was a very lengthy process because his mom's last name, who was born in Mexico, her name didn't match his like birth certificate and also with her birth certificate in Mexico. So you have to definitely double check that all names are spelled correctly, that they're actually true. And a lot of us as children of immigrants, our families, I think your mom was probably vulnerable where she didn't double check. Because, I mean, when you get your birth certificate, it's literally like the day after you were born. Yeah. And all of us moms are in this big fog. Like, we don't double check. And I had this experience right with Mateo. I think initially they like misspelled your name or something. And I was like, is it for real? And then you probably checked.
I don't remember.
It was such a fog, but we all get it, And so that's definitely one thing that I highly, highly recommend is to double check what the names, how the names are presented on your birth certificate, as well as your parent who was born in Mexico. How does that match with both? Like, how do they correspond with each other, essentially? Yeah, that's a really good call. Yeah. So after all that stuff got corrected, we then went to a Registro Civil in León. Yeah.
And then that process was just, it was quick. Yeah. It was quick. I think we were like in and out, like 30 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, they basically verified the documents. And because we walked in, so we didn't even make an appointment. We just like walked in. We double checked the location on Google Maps and we double checked the times. And they were just about to close because that's one of the downfalls. Just like all government offices, they close within like work hours. And so luckily, Alex, I think you left an hour early so that we could get there on time. But they were literally about to close. Yeah. And so what they were like, you know what, right now we don't have any time, but let me look at the documents. Te los reviso, and then we'll let you know if there's anything missing. And no, nothing was missing. We basically handed over the required documents, which again, I'll explain in my e-guide and course. And yeah, they were like, you know what, come back Friday and we'll have this ready. So honestly, like Alex didn't even have to be present. He just needed someone, a Mexican citizen, because I was before him. And I was able to tramitar, and go on his behalf to process this. So that was easy.
It was very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, what was the hardest part for you afterwards?
The passport. It was a password. But before we get to that, I mean, even like when I got the INA, that was a very easy process as well. The only thing that was needed there, you needed to have two witnesses, right?
Yeah, two witnesses to
two,
get your INE.
yeah. And then luckily your cousin or
Yeah.
whatever she's
Prima.
your prima, yeah, she was able to be there with us while I signed the INA paperwork and all that stuff. And then that took 7 days to get.
To get your INE.
Yeah, and it took me 7 days to get that INA. And then the fun part was a passport. That was fun. And I say that very sarcastically. Yeah, I mean, it was initially I thought it was going to be all smooth. You know, we did we set up the appointment online, and then we have a office over here like 5 minutes from us. Did the appointment, went in person, and they hated me as soon as I walked in. I'm exaggerating a little bit, right? But no, I mean, everything was going smooth. Everything was going fine until the one dude that was handling my paperwork asked me where I was from. And then once I told him, I was born in the United States, it was just like a little side eye. It was just like, you're from the United States. And then from there, they just gave me, can I swear on here?
Yeah.
They gave me shit, the whole process, right? Yeah, it took, I think I was there for like an hour the first time. Yeah, it was about an hour. But yeah, as soon as that one person asked me where I'm from, told him, yeah, he just like literally did his best to drag out the process, and then I still did not get my passport that same day. Right? I just feel like they were looking at nitpicking everything. Oh, and one thing too, one word of advice. For any paperwork that you may have, like your birth certificate, your parents' birth certificate, make sure that it's not folded. Make sure that it's not folded, because
I think they were just telling you that so that they can give you issues.
But just in case, just have all your paperwork like the way it's supposed to be. Don't fold it, because that was one thing that they were telling me. That was one reason why I couldn't get my passport, because my paperwork was folded. All right. And then after that, I took my pictures, and then the final one, my signature. So I'm not the type of person that when it comes to my signature, I just
scribble.
Yeah, I scribble. And I've been doing that since I can remember. Never had an issue. Never, ever had an issue until when I was trying to get my passport. Right? Like, I signed it. They were looking at it. They're like, oh, yeah, your signature doesn't match the signature on the INE. And then, yeah, make sure that your signature is the same.
Yeah.
And then they gave me...
I mean, it should be the same. It shouldn't be scribbles. No offense.
Whatever. My signature looks professional. But anyways. Yeah. They gave me like about, I think like 30 tries to try to get it the same as it was on the INE. I'm just like, for the life of me, I couldn't do it, because I guess it's not an excuse or anything, but I think it's just muscle memory in my arm. Like, I just scribble. And then at the last one, they're like, yeah, you know what, your signatures don't match. Had 4 office managers staring me down, right, and just making me nervous. And they were just like, yeah, I'm sorry, we can't do it. So it was because of the signature.
He left empty-handed.
I left empty-handed.
Without his passport. And that was because you went to an office here in Mexico. And yeah, and compared to my experience, it was very different.
Wait, but weren't they telling me to get like all these bunch of paperworks too?
Yeah, they also asked for your mom's birth certificate. When he already had gotten his birth certificate Mexicano, because he went through a Registro Civil first and got registered, and now he's officially a Mexicano. And so all what he had to turn in, and it's literally stated on the Mexican government's website. To get a passport, all what you need is your INE, which is the first thing that he did as soon as he got registered in Registro Civil. You need a CURP, your copy of your CURP, your clave or whatever, and you need your birth certificate and the payment. So you had to pay before going in. So we paid at a bank and everything. We got the receipt. We had all the paperwork that was listed and stated on their website. However, este oficial, again, they were giving him issues, and they were like, something else is missing. Your mom's birth certificate.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. Like, yeah, I think they were just giving
they were giving me a hard time.
Like a hard time. They were giving you issues, qualms, like, they're like, we're not gonna give him his Mexican passport because no es Mexicano, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was very bogus. And so to this day, he never got his passport in Mexico. And so,
We ended up making an appointment at the one in Chicago.
yeah. So, but before that, like, the Mexican government has your money.
Yeah.
Like, you paid el gobierno mexicano for this passport that you never got in Mexico. And it wasn't until you went to Chicago, when we last went to Chicago early this fall, you made an appointment. And luckily we had already made that appointment because we were like, just in case, they give you issues. So we had already scheduled the appointment literally day of when we flew into Chicago, like that morning. Such a long day that day. But after how many minutes did you spend there?
I think I was only there for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, he got his passport.
And it was just a completely different experience there. Because, I mean, like, I was freaking out because I'm just like, what about if they tell me the same stuff, that your signature is different? And, I got there, did the whole process, got my picture taken, your fingerprints, signed, and then he was just like, he looked at it, he was looking at my INE. Yeah, he was looking at my INE and my passport, the signature I had for the passport. He was just like, oh, está un poquito diferente, pero, yeah, pásale. So I'm like, wow, okay, cool. But, it sucked. It sucked trying to get my passport here in Mexico because it was kind of embarrassing,
they give you a hard time.
Yeah, but, it was just a completely different experience back in Chicago.
Yeah.
They were just like, oh, it's a little bit different. No matter, go get your stuff.
Yeah.
And bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, that's what's hard. And again, the government owes us money. I don't know how we can get that money back. That's still something he kind of gave up, but I'm like, no, like it was ¿cuánto? Like $100-something.
No, it was like 600 pesos around there somewhere.
Oh, okay. But still, money is money. And so compared to this unfortunate but fortunate experience, now he's officially a Mexican citizen y todo eso, he's gotten his dual citizenship. For my experience, it was different porque the way that we did it was that we went to el Registro Civil office in el rancho de mis papás. So it's a small little pueblo. And when at first my mom turned in the documents for me because at that time we weren't in Mexico. But we happened to go during spring break, and we ended up going to spring break, the week after my mom had dropped off the documents. So it literally took about 10 business days or so, to fully process my registro, porque the lady who worked at the Registro Civil office had to take all of the documentation in this Guanajuato City, which is the state capital, and they kind of processed it. Whereas compared to Alex, it only took like 2 days basically to process the whole thing. So that is a difference in going to a Registro Civil office in a small pueblo versus like in a city, because they kind of do it kind of like then and there. Whereas with me, they kind of do the slow process. But the good thing is that I didn't even have to be in Mexico when my mom handed in those documents. I ended up going to Mexico because we had planned this trip in the spring, and it happened to be that my birth certificate was ready and everything. So, I collected it, and on that same day, I then processed our kids' Registro Civil, and that alone took another week because again, I did it in the Registro Civil office in my parents' pueblito. And then, it took about 2 weeks total between me and the kids to get their Registro Civil done. And again, as far as with like what it was, what documents did we turn in, again, that's in my e-guide and in my course. So please support me because I do share a wealth of information for you. After we had collected our birth certificates de Mexico, que ya estamos registrados, we got in the CURPS and everything, we traveled back to Chicago, and we got our passports at the consulate. So if you go to the consulate in the United States and wanting to get your passport, the documents are a little different as far as what they require. So for example, for Alex, if you go to una oficina aquí, in Mexico, they're going to require your INE, your birth certificate, and your CURP. In the consulate, they're going to require your CURP, your birth certificate, and a form of identification, which could be your U.S. passport. So they accepted that as a form of identification because at that time, I didn't have anything else to prove that I am from Mexico. So they accepted it at the consulate. So depending on where you want to go, it could work both ways unless your signature is crappy and they don't accept you like Alex did in Mexico. But we found that going to the consulate and getting your passport is much easier and faster than doing it here in Mexico. So just a quick tip, like for us, our experience in getting the Registro Civil done in Mexico was much simpler than if we were to go to the consulate. But if you're getting your passport, it's much simpler to do it in the consulado than in Mexico. Yes. So it's kind of like vice versa. And then with my INE, once we moved here in Mexico, I got my INE, and that was easy. That was a piece of cake because I obviously had my birth certificate and my Mexican passport. So that was easy. You could potentially get your INE at a consulate office, but what I have found is that it's not going to be as valid as if you were getting your INE in Mexico. And the reason why is because of the domicilio. Okay, so like your street address. If you get your INE in a consulado, your street address will be wherever you live in the United States. But if you get your INE here in Mexico, that address will show whatever address that you're showing as comprobante de domicilio. So it could be like your grandparents' utility bill. That's what I did. Yeah. It could be if you decide to move to Mexico, it could be your lease agreement.
Which is what
Alex did. Yeah. So it all depends. You can have an INE, but it depends for what purpose. Like if you decide to vote here at a certain election time, and if they see que your domicilio is from like the United States, they're not going to let you. It has to be a domicilio here in Mexico. So that's just one of the things. But yeah, you can get all of these documents either in Mexico here or in a consulado in the United States. And again, in my digital course and my e-guide, I share a lot of information about where you can find these locations and everything. So, whatever route that you decide, I think that's good for you. At the end, we're all going to be dual citizens, but it just depends on what type of process you want to consider. And for us, we found that, again, getting the Registro Civil done in Mexico was much quicker, faster, and even like cost effective.
Yeah.
And again, I share that in my e-guide and digital course.
Yeah. In both of our experiences, for me, it took total time was about 4 months, maybe. And you was 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So yeah, depending on your situation, you can go from there 2 weeks to 4 months, probably even longer. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. So let me know if you have any questions about getting dual citizenship. Like I said, I will be linking my e-guide and digital course here in the show notes, as well as the YouTube description of this episode. And as always, feel free to reach out. But Alex, it was such a pleasure having you on the podcast. It was really fun to have you these past 5 weeks. I really appreciate your presence, but also just the fact that we got to do this together. I think all of us always dream of doing something different, but if you don't have the right partnership, the right type of communication with your partner, if you are in a partner relationship, things can be heavy on you. And so this is just another sign to not do this alone. Open up with your partner, and you never know. Like I always envisioned myself living abroad. It wasn't until I literally opened up to him, I was like, why don't we just move to Mexico? And then it then started to feed into him, and that's how we made it, possible. So yeah, I know I'm getting sidetracked, but this is just another sign to just, have this open communication with your partner.
Everything what she said, and thank you for having me on. I hope I did a decent job.
Yeah, you did. All right, amiga. Well, thank you so much for listening. Hasta la próxima y nos vemos in the next episode.